Buick, 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 Buick. Hello Rebrand gang, and welcome to episode 59 of Rebrand Everything, the weekly graphic design show where we redesign the logo of big or famous companies. In today's video, we're going to be redesigning the logo for Buick cars. And thank you to Destiny for submitting this idea over on rebrandeverything.com. Before we get into this week's video, I just want to show you what I've been up to this week. So yeah, that's been a really exciting week, so let's get on with some design. Okay, so as I've never been to America, this brand was all new to me, so I needed to spend some time on their website to really understand what they were about, but not only spend time on their website, also just look around the rest of the internet to kind of get the perception of the company and just sort of see where they stand in the car market. So initial thoughts is their actual website looks pretty good. I noticed that for the font they're using Futura almost exclusively, which is like a classic font style that you just can't really go wrong with. So from the website, I'm getting the feeling that these cars are probably mid-range cars because the actual models themselves don't look particularly sporty or wild. But the website is definitely giving me some more elegant vibes with the fonts and colours, and some of the images of the interiors do look nice and quite premium. So to see if my guesswork was right, I ventured onto Google to try and find out more about the company, and I found out that they are a part of General Motors. On Wikipedia, I found that Buick has been marketed as a premium brand somewhere between General Motors' mainstream brands but below the Cadillac division. And also, just as a side note here, the Cadillac logo has a similar shield concept to the actual Buick logo, but uses more fancy script font to give them premium vibes. So now I have an idea of the kind of cars they sell and the position in the market, it was time to have a little look at the logo. I found this website called carbrandnames.com, and it had pretty much all the information that I needed and all the history of the logo as well. So obviously their logo is 3 shields inside a circle, as you can see, and something I found out was that the shields come from a Scottish coat of arms, and the 3 shields were originally representing the company's 3 models of car, and now they obviously have more than 3 models. They keep the 3 shields just to keep up the tradition. And just a little note here, notice how the actual coat of arms have this little deer and this little like cross icon on there, because that might come in handy later in the design stage. So now that I have a pretty good idea of the company, a good idea of the history of the logo and why it looks like it does, it was time to go back to their website and take a close look at what they're using now, their current logo. So my first thoughts on their current logo are, the logo has too much detail to display nicely in the header of a website. 2, the logo looks good on the grille of the car, but isn't working so well down at small sizes. And 3, the actual design of the logo is good, it's the additional chrome shading that's causing it to look sort of blurry and overcomplicated. Now when I was searching for vector logos to have something to work with at the design stage, I found this, and this is basically a simplified black and white version of the current logo, and it is pretty similar to an idea that was kind of already forming in my head anyway, so it's good that they've already kind of got something that I can work with here. But I noticed that with this version, some of the lines are so thin that you've got still a similar problem when you scale down, so it doesn't completely solve the problem that it needs to. So I'm thinking that that's where some of my options are probably going to head for this project. Okay then, so now I've got enough info on the company, had a look at the logo, had a look at the logo history, it's time to start sketching out some ideas. So that's what I'm going to do now. Sketch out some ideas. So at the sketching stage, I added 2 images into my pasteboard before I started sketching, and one of the full colour logo and one of the black and white simplified version too. As the shield is an important part of their history, most of the ideas did revolve around this, as I wanted to keep it in. Instead of changing the whole concept, I was looking at different ways of showing the shields that look quite different, even though it is essentially the same thing and following down the same path, the same concept. The layout of the shields was an interesting one. I liked the idea of having a large central shield with two smaller versions on the left and right to make it look like they're standing behind the main central shield, and that gives that cool epic effect similar to when you use a wide angle lens in photography to exaggerate the objects that are closer to the camera. A few other ideas stem from this, such as showing just the edge of the second and third shield tucked in behind the main shield at the front. At this stage, when I was thinking about the badge on the bonnet of a car, I was thinking that it probably didn't need the circle around it. As a shield is a symmetrical shape anyway, I didn't feel like I needed to add a shape around the emblem itself. I also started looking at some options that incorporated a bee into the shield and some that had wings behind the shield, but I started to think I was adding things for the sake of it instead of making wise design decisions. So that is pretty much it for the sketching stage on this project. And now that these were all done, it's time to move into Illustrator to turn these into something that looks half decent. If you are enjoying this video, please remember to be a top lad or lass and press like on it just to show YouTube that you like this video, and basically that helps YouTube show this video to more people, and basically the Rebrand gang gets bigger. Oh yeah, and how could I forget to mention as well, the Udemy course that I've been talking about for a few months now is finally uploaded. Basically the idea behind it is following along with the logo design process, but in much more detail than the YouTube videos that I make. There's about 2 hours of video content there with ideas of brainstorming, researching, designing, sketching, literally every part of the process, right down to sending off the final files to your customer. So yeah, check that out if you are wanting to get into logo design. The link is at the top of the description, so check that out if you get time.
Anyway, that's enough chat. Let's get into designing these bad boys.
So option 1 was all about simplification. Simplify the shields, simplify the color palette, simplify the shapes used. I started by using the existing shield shapes from the current logo and working these into something that is way more scalable than the existing logo. To ensure the logo works in small situations like a mobile website, I thickened up some of the thinner lines and made sure that there were no small lines or gaps anywhere on the logo. Once the overall concept was laid out, I was kind of happy, but had to spend some time balancing the line thicknesses with the font thicknesses to make sure that they work nicely together instead of one looking way visually heavier than the other. So option 2 ended up being quite a step away from my usual design style, but I thought it worked quite well. Basically, I drew a completely new shield design by drawing a rectangle, then adding an anchor point to the bottom center, and from here I could simply move the two outer anchor points up and then use the rounded corners feature to give me that cool, simple shield shape. Once I had this, I added a thicker white stroke behind my black stroke so that I had a nice even gap for when I put another separate black line behind the shield to form the diagonal line that runs across the shield. Cool, that was a mouthful. Now I had this vision in my mind that this option would use a serif font to give a feeling of prestige, and that also gives the feeling that they've been around for a while. I found this cool set of fonts called Aviano, which looked cool when paired with my free shield layout, and that font is part of the Adobe font, so if you have the Adobe Cloud you can click Find More in the character palette and you get access to that. I was playing with the italic styled version of the font but decided it looked a little bit amateurish in the end, so I switched to the more standard serif version. I'm undecided whether the text and logo is a nice contrast of styles or the two styles clash. Let me know what you think in the comments.
3.
So you might have noticed in option 2 I tried a few different shield layouts, and I liked one of these enough to become the basis of option 3. The three shields layered up gives a feeling of perspective while staying simple in design. I wanted to give this option a little bit more of the original coat of arms, so I added in the deer's head and the little cross from the coat of arms that I found on Google earlier. I traced over the pic I found on Google, but I always find that if I just try to trace something it looks ugly, so this little snap to grid trick helps keep a little structure to the design. Basically, when you're tracing something that's low res, it's easy to get just slight misalignments where you haven't clicked exactly on the pixel, like the anti-aliasing of the image sometimes makes it hard to know exactly where to put the anchor point. So by using snap to grid, it just limits your options and helps keep it looking clean. I tried to also incorporate colours into this option, but it just reminded me of a French flag, even though I know the colours weren't in the right order to be a French flag. So I decided to simplify it to black only, and then that way the badge on the car is easy to make. And also, I always feel like if a company just uses a single colour logo, it always feels quite mature, and it's like they're so confident they don't need to rely on colour and other effects to make up their brand. They can just stick with their app logo itself.
4.
So for option 4, I wanted to develop the idea of stacking the shields to create a compact icon that retains that core concept. There's a few different ways that this could be laid out, so I explored a few of them and then chose the version that would work best alongside the text. The font choice was governed mostly by the icon style. I thought the icon looked quite strong and almost industrial, so I needed a font to match. I know industrial might be a weird word to use, but I think it conjures up images of strength and resilience, which are obviously two things that you do want from a car. I had to adjust the text a bit as the sea was making me feel sick with these disgusting little half curves on the end. So once the text was sorted out and I just straightened up them ends and neatened up a few little other spacing issues, once that was all ironed out, I think I ended up with quite a powerful little logo.
5.
So after creating 4 shield-based options, I finally realised that this is a hypothetical rebrand and I am actually allowed to try some other concepts other than shields. And this was a real revelation, so I decided to do something I've never done before, and that was be creative. I started out by looking for a font that had a premium feel. There seems to be no one factor that makes something premium, but when you see it, you just know it. I was looking at making the icon a B shape, so font choice was crucial here. I looked back at the font I'd used in earlier options, and Aviano has lots of different styles, so it seemed to fit quite well. At this point in the video, I'm feeling a little bit like a salesman for this font, but I can promise you I am in no way affiliated. I just like the look of it. I liked the look of the B in the black circle, but I wanted to make it feel a little bit more bespoke by adjusting the baseline of the B to exit the circle out to the left. And this also meant that I had to adjust the flourish on the left hand side, so it worked nicely with the new curve I'd made between the B and the line that exits the circle. I hope that makes sense. This extension of the B gives me the impression of forward movement and kind of looks pretty distinctive. I think the circular silhouette means it will work well as a badge on the front and back of a car too, and you will find that out at the end of this video as well, because I've done a little mock-up of a car badge on like a bonnet. The whole time I was developing this concept, I had the icon above the text, but then my preferred version is actually when the icon was to the left of the text, although I would imagine that we would still use the stacked version for profile images and square formats, and use the landscape version for like website headers and stuff like that, and maybe like on the top of letterheads. Okay then, Rebrand gang, just before I show you them final options, I just want to remind you to press the little I button up here and vote for your favourite in the poll, and then head straight down to the comments below and let me know why that was your favourite and what you might have done differently. Press like on the video if you haven't already, that really helps the channel out, and press subscribe if you want to see videos like this pretty much every single week. Okay then, Rebrand gang, let's see them final options.